Hello. So, if you're asking yourself questions like, how do I stop being against myself? How do I stop self-sabotaging? How do I stop procrastinating? How do I stop indecision? How do I make decisions? So, all of these questions can be healed spectacularly the same way, and that is to learn how to do parts work. So, the parts that it refers to are parts of your consciousness. Now, I think this is humanity's best kept secret, and I'm an alternative therapist, and I do this sometimes using tapping as well as parts work. And this process is magical. And basically, what happened to you was that you have two parts of consciousness that come from traumas or difficult circumstances at two different ages. So sometimes you end up with parts that seem to be opposing. So I'm going to, in a minute, I'm going to do my show on holistic radio, which happens every Monday, 5 till 6 p.m. UK time. And that's on Telegram. So the parts of my consciousness that I'm going to be working on are the part of me that doesn't love herself and the part of me that does. So I would say every human has these two opposing aspects of consciousness. And this is a process to just keep coming back to it. And then each time you come back to it, there will have been a significant change in the way that those parts of your consciousness appear to you. So what happened to all of us is that we end up kind of stuck because we're on a pendulum swing from this part over here and this part over here. And how you know that you've got this split in your consciousness is that you might say things like, I feel torn. One part of me wants to go this way, the other part of me wants to go that way. Now, we struggle with this sometimes for years, years. And who knew that we could resolve it ourselves? So the best thing about this is that you can, once you've come to understand it, you can heal it yourself. And all that you have to do is find a way of expressing this side of consciousness and also expressing that one because they're both valid. We don't want to make either part of us wrong or bad. Neither part of us is self-sabotaging us. There's no part of our consciousness that is against us. All parts of you love you. So if it feels like there's an inner critic or a part of you that is hijacking you and taking you down, that's because it's an internalized voice and it's someone else's voice, someone else from your past. So if you suppress these aspects of you, you can express them. If these parts of you decided things that are holding you back now in your adult circumstances, you can unmake that decision. So if you're interested in learning how to do this, stay tuned and I'll see you later. My name's Jenny Luscombe and I'm a facilitator of healing and a very passionate advocate for self-healing. If you're interested in learning how to work on yourself, if you're interested in parts work or inner child work, or working out how to express parts of your consciousness that you don't know how to get to, then come and join my YouTube channel where there's lots and lots of tips which are free, or you can book a session with me. Come and have a look at my website. It's JennyLuscombeEFT.co.uk. So EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques, of which there are many. Hello, this is Jenny Luscombe, and this is Feeling is Healing. And today I'm going to be doing parts work on myself. Because I figured I'm asking a few people to come on and have an exploration of consciousness with me to demonstrate that to the world, to help people learn how to do it themselves. Because I think that if everybody did parts work with their own consciousness and had this self-exploration, that we would have a complete quantum leap through time and space. But I thought, to have integrity, I better get on here and do it myself first. So And I do think sometimes I might sound a bit like a cracked record because I go on and on about it, but I can't emphasize enough the importance of going to particularly polar aspects of our consciousness. So, everybody in the world seems to be stuck in some way. That might be in relationships, in work. There's a million different ways that you can be stuck, and it looks like self-sabotage or procrastination or indecision, addiction, things like that, that you do them but you don't want to do them, or a part of you wants to go that way and a part of you wants to go that way. We sometimes hear ourselves say, I feel torn. And if you feel torn in any way, then this is definitely for you. So parts work is actually one of the greatest success tips that I think anyone could offer. So that's not, I don't really mean success in terms of, going for the big money, and although it can mean that if that's what you want to go for in your life. I mean success as in feeling good. So feeling good in what you're choosing, and then feeling free to go in the direction that you want to go in without feeling held back in any way by any other people or any circumstances or aspects of your own consciousness. If we free up our parts of consciousness on polar kind of opposite sides, then we're not putting on the brakes and trying to accelerate at the same time. It means that all parts of us are starting to align and all parts of us are on board to go in the direction that we want to go in. So I was kind of a bit disturbed today. I was looking up emotion, like what do search engines say to do about difficult emotion? And many of them actually ask you to go and distract yourself, which I almost had a heart attack when I heard that. It's definitely an agenda to take people in the opposite direction of their emotion. So I would advise don't distract yourself. Turn around, do a U-turn and walk directly into the emotion. So parts work is really good for when there's been fragmentation at different ages historically for you. So you might have a 9-year-old version of you that made a decision about something. And then you might have like a 21-year-old that had made a decision about something. And both of those parts suppressed an aspect on this topic that you're trying to do. So you might be wanting to start a project, wanting to set up a business, wanting to leave a relationship or start a relationship, leave a job, start a job. You might be stuck in, I can't decide, I don't know what's best for me, I don't know myself enough. All of these things can be helped with parts work. So what can really help is to make neither of your parts the bad guy. So we need to allow both parts to be exactly the way that they're being. So we all have resistance to the part of us that is holding us back, or the part of us that doesn't love ourselves, or whatever part it is that feels negative. We want to just allow it to express, because what it is expressing is valid. But equally, the part of you that is on the other side of the coin, that is also valid, because when the decision was made that caused this fragmentation in the first place, it was valid at that level of your consciousness at that time. So these parts of us get frozen in time and space. And that's why sometimes it seems like we've got opposing aspects. One part of us is a frightened child. The other part of us is a motivated adult that wants to go forward. Now, those two things blended together just causes a sort of feeling of going nowhere. Like if you're putting the brakes on and you're accelerating at the same time, it just makes sense that you're not going to make radical progress. So I've decided that as we're all kind of on this path to embodiment, we want to bring our higher selves into our body. We want to be the maximized version of us that we can be, but we have these blocks in the way. I thought that the best polar aspects for me to work on today to demonstrate this process would be to address the part of me that doesn't love herself and the part of me that does love myself. So I've made a few notes because I kind of thought before I do the show, I'll like dip into these aspects of consciousness. But yeah, a lot of it is going to be kind of ad hoc as I go. So I'm going to use tapping. I'm just going to tap on the central meridian point on my chest plate. So in the middle of my kind of above my heart area. That's called the thymus point. And the tapping enables you to think more clearly, and it connects your mind with your heart, with the rest of your body. So I call this the golden trilogy. If you can be in your mind, your heart, and your body at the same time, and they're all holding hands with each other, and they're all working together, this is coherence. So mainly we're walking around in the world incoherent. So we might be more in our mind than in our body. We might be more in our body than in our mind. We might not be in our heart at all. Sometimes we might be overly in our heart, but not in our mind. So these can cause all manner of dysfunction. So when you're tapping, it lowers the cortisol level and then it enables your emotional body and your mental body to work together with your physical body and your spiritual body. So lots of the systems of your body respond really well to tapping, and it brings down the resistance that you might have. And then if you do get heightened emotion or you need to cry, then the tapping enables you to go through that emotion as opposed to want to distract yourself. So it helps you to be kind of more grounded in the experience and more present. So I'm just going to start. I always think that I'm going to address both sides of this coin, but I think it's often a good way of doing it is to go to the more negative side of consciousness first, because then you end on a high note. And it seems to work better when I do it that way with clients, but it's entirely up to you. So I would recommend, if you wanted to try PartsWork with yourself, you can record yourself on your phone speaking if you think that speaking is your best form of self-expression. You can write, so you can get a notebook and pen. Some people want to dance it out. Like you can dance, like there's a lot of embodied dance processes like chakra dancing where you can set an intention at the beginning and then you can channel your anger and rage into that dance. There's loads of forms of self-expression. You can paint it if you're an artist. It's good if you record it as well. So if you can record it on your phone or record it on paper, then this enables you to go back, and then maybe you can use a process like tapping to help you go into the energy again, and then you can kind of process layers and layers of that stuff. But I can't emphasize enough how much change I witness in clients when they use this process with me. So I'm going to start with the part of me that doesn't love herself. But before I start with that, I'm going to visualize both of these parts in my mind's eye. So I've got the part of me that loves herself, the part of me that doesn't love herself. So how they are appearing to me and how they were appearing to me earlier when I was first dipping my toe in. I've got the part of me that doesn't love herself. Kind of looks like the scene generally kind of looks more drab and depressing, kind of like almost like black and white, almost brown, like an old photograph. She's feeling kind of like a sort of vibe of hopelessness, like a kind of like, if I asked her what she's saying to herself, she's kind of saying, oh, nothing works. Like whatever I do, however hard I try, it doesn't work. Like I feel like I'm not getting translated into the world. Like there's something missing. So that's sort of how she's appearing to me. And then on the other side, like the part of me that does love herself and does feel motivated and in the flow, she's kind of more colourful and bright and vivid. And she looks good. She's smiling. She's happy. She's got like a glow and a warmth to her, whereas the other one kind of feels down and kind of disempowered. So one of these is disempowered, the other is empowered. So one of them can't generate her own energy. She's kind of relying on energy coming at her from the external to get motivated, whereas the other one, she's self-generating and she's kind of infinite. Okay, so I'm going to start with the aspect of me that doesn't love herself. So you can call this, self-loathing, self-hatred, whatever that is for you. Like it might not be called that, but it's an inability to care for oneself. So we've all got this aspect on some level, like we're all on that scale. So I'm tapping on my central meridian point on my thymus. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to dive into this aspect of my consciousness as if the other one wasn't a thing. So I'm going to allow this part of me to speak, to reminisce, to describe things, to explain who she is, why she's feeling like that. And there's no right or wrong. I'm not going to make her the bad guy. So I might feel intensity in some way. That might be emotion. I might need to cry. Um, there's all sorts of things that can come out of this. So one of the best things that you can do when you're doing parts work is to pay attention to what's going on in your physical body. So the tapping enables that. So when I dive into this part of me, I get a physical sensation in the throat area. So it's obvious that there's something in my field, there's memory that I haven't fully processed that is connected to self-expression or like a feeling of being inhibited. So this part of me, she feels angry, but it's like an internalized anger with herself. Sort of like a feeling of being behind schedule, like a desperation to get back on schedule, but not knowing how. And there's a sense of limitation, but like she's blaming the external, she's blaming other people. She's making it someone else's responsibility instead of her own. And she can't generate her own energy. And when I go to what's she thinking about, she's depressed because problems seem to come out of nowhere sometimes. She can be feeling good and everything's fine. And then something comes out of nowhere and it feels like the universe is cruel. And she feels haunted by bad decisions that she's made. And there are regrets, even though the other part of her believes that there are no regrets, like it's all meant to be happening the way it's happening. She gets stuck in regret, stuck in her head. And sometimes she's got like this urgency, this kind of like urge to just keep going even when she feels bad, almost like a panic. Like a need to move forward, but not really knowing the way holds her back. And she's kind of like she's not fully breathing. She's doing this shallow breathing, which is a classic kind of trauma response. And she has this craving. She sometimes smokes when she's craving, and she needs something outside of her to change. And it never works, it never helps her. So there you can see like a self-destructive kind of pattern. Trying to help herself, but not helping herself. Giving to herself, but taking away from herself at the same time, that push-pull. And she's as well as this kind of throat chakra tension, she's got like a kind of dread, like a anticipation of something bad coming. It's like a really familiar feeling from childhood. And she's thinking, it's hard to love myself when others don't even see me. And it's making me think of bad relationships. It's making me think of my childhood. And I've done so much self-healing that it's interesting how I've got like this faint feeling of dread, but it's not an intense feeling for me. Sometimes when you practice this, if you haven't done a lot of consciousness work, it might feel unbearable, like unbearable emotion. But I would say if you're tapping, you can move through that and it will subside and start to morph and change into something else. So yeah, this dread, when I tune into this dread, it makes me think of my childhood family. And even though in my current circumstances I've made peace with my parents, I've made peace with my family, that's been in me kind of moving towards them with forgiveness. There hasn't been much of a conversation, so I've had to sort of let it all go. And it might sound offensive to some people, but and I know they won't be listening to this show, but I call them my cardboard cutout family because, you know, they're very programmed. And if they ask you how you are and you don't say I'm fine, they can't compute anything else. It's difficult to have any depth with them. So this dread feeling is making me think of my cardboard cutout family. And, you know, even though there were happy times when I was a kid, the when I go to my inner children, there's always like this kind of lonely, cold kind of feeling. It was a Catholic upbringing. There wasn't much affection or love at all. There was like an intolerance for difference, you know, like being creative or joyful. And as well as the kind of cold indifference and lack of attunement, there was hostility as well. There was intolerance and kind of attacking kind of, you know, energy. So yeah, this is kind of going there is my body is showing me kind of like the sensations kind of like waves. It's kind of like waves folding in on themselves. It's strange, kind of almost like an implosion rather than an explosion. So paying attention to what your body is doing, like you can't necessarily know what your body is doing, but it's doing something and it's good. So I'm just thinking of all the lacks, you know, there was a lack of guidance, a lack of encouragement, lack of affection, this joylessness, but as well as all of the absence. and absence of availability as well. There was force, and like this eternal kind of question of my inner child, what am I doing wrong? What am I not getting? If there's a question, so if you experience yourself asking a question or going to a part of you where there's a question, that's what trauma actually is. It's a lack of resolution. It was a need to understand, but an incapacity to get to the answer. So, yeah, this part of my consciousness, this not able to love the self, she's kind of a bit incredulous. She's like, how can I love myself when nobody loved me? Nobody saw me. Nobody knew me. So my inner child looks forlorn, still kind of on her own, stagnant, wishing, wishing for things to change. Like the part of me that's smoking. So the inner child that I'm thinking of, like, I think she must be about 12 or 13, kind of as I'm looking at her now. And she's thinking, I can't create. I don't get to create. I don't get to connect with the friends I want, the groups that I want. She's sort of on the outside looking in or on the inside looking out. It's like a sort of misfire, like a dislocation, that kind of feeling. And in my body now, I can feel that in my back, like a kind of twisted feeling. It sometimes feels like a feeling of being torn in half, like needing to express and be myself, but not being allowed to need. So she's thinking, I can't be who I want. I can't get what I want. I can't do what I want. She feels like a ghost. That's like a classic feeling from childhood, like a kind of non-existent energy with these big wide eyes. So I'm getting that kind of like the color, like kind of the brown, grey, black, kind of dreary drabness of not feeling stimulated, like intense boredom, but also this impenetrable unworkability of my parents. And it's making me like this is a multi-sensory process. It's making me smell the smell of boiled carrots, the smell of Sundays, lonely, kind of rainy Sundays in the 70s and 80s, which is kind of transporting me to the dinner table where there was always like conflict of some sort. My mum kind of hunched over at the table, no one really speaking. Maybe the TV's on. My dad's like shushing us so he can watch the weather or the football. Everyone's sort of looking down, not a lot of connection. This feeling of there isn't connection, there's no relationship here. Yeah, so I'm sort of getting like a wave of heat. So when you're tapping, when you're tuning into difficulty, if you feel heat in your body or actually cold, sometimes you feel freezing when you do this. That's energy moving. Sometimes you actually get the feeling of cold and heat at the same time. That's weird. So I've kind of got tension in my neck now. And like from my work that I do with the body code, I know that any tension in the neck, any issues with the neck is always to do with free will, always. So this is about my free will being stifled and kind of invaded sometimes. So I'm getting that wave folding in on itself feeling again. And it's kind of a sense of unexpressed rage, like this need to just hurl abuse at my parents. And like when I think about me and my sisters and my dad, like we were always like relentlessly trying to please her. Like we were trying to fall over ourselves to help her feel all right, help her be all right, you know. And like she had loads of unresolved trauma and still does. Um, but you know, she was like a black hole. And with people like that, there is nothing that works. And like this sort of enduring feeling that I get from this aspect of my consciousness is like it's almost like I was an unwelcome house guest. And when I've said this to clients as well, like a lot of them have resonated with that sense of, this isn't my life. Like, I'm not supposed to be here. How did I get here? Why does it seem like I don't belong here when this is my house? This is my family. So when I think about this aspect of my consciousness, it's like, how does she generate love for herself when there was no love put forth towards her? No one came towards her. And as well as that, she was pushed away and resisted and resented as well and blamed. And, my older sister, she had quite significant special needs. And my other sister, she was much younger. So I was kind of the capable one and like middle child syndrome as well. Like often, if you were more capable for some reason than your siblings, generally, you were parentified. So you sometimes were the mini adult before you were ready. And I was constantly rescuing my sister from bullying situations and yeah, being the mum, the dad. And that just like the feeling of indifference, the lack of love, like there was loads of words to go with that. Like my mum would always say to us, I'm not interested. If we had something to say or a complaint to make about one of our other sisters or something, we needed something. I'm not interested. And that would be it. There would just be a wall there. It was just this impenetrable unworkability, like no movement. Yeah, so this sense of no answers, no solution. Um, I don't have it anymore, but like when I've worked on this part for years, the physical sensation of that was it was like a piece of metal kind of like wedged in my body, like kind of like a force field. And I had to, and it was an unbearable feeling. It was like annihilation. It was like it was never going to end. I wasn't convinced I was ever going to get through that wall, to be honest. But I did. I don't have it anymore. So if you're tapping and doing parts work or inner child work and you have like a very visceral kind of physical sensation or even a sensation outside of you that is preventing you, stick with it and just tap and let it be there and use all kinds of like creative imagery. Like in the end, I think what got that wall down for me was I was like enlisting light beings to basically put a fire hose of source energy onto it. You don't have to do this on your own. Like if you're into quantum healing or healing through imagination, get the dragons onto it and the angels. So I would recommend a quantum fire hose because that was awesome. Yeah, so this part of me, she's giving me like a sense of there's no relief here. You're on your own, like over to you. Um, yeah, so this part of me, when I look at all of this, obviously there's a part of me that doesn't love herself. It just makes sense. So you just have to let it all be there in the horror and terror of it. You know, I don't feel like this anymore, but like I have asked myself the question, how is it possible to survive this? How do you get through this? Like, how do you create thrival when you didn't have it? How do you create something that you don't have a template for? But ultimately, that's what we're all doing at the moment. We're rising out of the 3D matrix and we are nailing it, in my opinion. So if you feel like you just want to give up and you just can't, that's okay. Sit with that feeling of I can't until it turns into something else, and it will, I promise you. So I'm just letting it all be there and I'm sending understanding and compassion to that version. Like if you can generate a feeling of love in your heart for the aspect of you that feels loveless, that duality, you are integrating the polarities right there. You are a bridge from not just from the physical to the non-physical, but from the dark to the light. And we can feel both things at once. Takes a bit of practice. But yeah, I can feel like there's significant movement in my solar plexus, which obviously relates to our personal power. And there's been a few waves of energy and actually like bit of a wave of nausea, which is quite common when you dip into the negative emotion. So something that I do with my inner child, as often as I can, like probably not, I probably don't do it enough, quite honestly, but I I see her in her bedroom, where I used to try to feel and I used to cry, and I I allow my adult self to step into her experience, and I say helpful things to her like, I'm you from the future, and I've come back to help you with your feelings because no one else did. I acknowledge that no one's helping you. And I always explain, I'm so sorry, your parents, they don't know how to be parents. They don't know how to be good parents, and it's not your fault. And I know that you think there's something wrong with you. It's not you. Their parents didn't know how to be good parents, and they can't teach you something that they didn't learn. And I can see and I can feel that magic that's inside of you, even if no one else can. And you came to this planet from somewhere else, and you came to help humanity. And it's okay to feel bad because you're bringing your light in ways that you don't understand yet. But I'm here for you. And I recommend using like every creative fiber of your being. Like I've I've done like all sorts of things where I've brought Archangel Michael in to give my mum a bit of a bollocking and to tell her how it is. Um, I've taken like light beings into the Catholic Church that we always went to reluctantly, and brought in the real light, not the false light. Yeah, so like a light being invasion into that dark place. But you can have adventures with your inner child, and always asking them what they need is like a significant question. And then see if you can bring the answer, bring the solution that they couldn't get to, meet their needs. So I will quite often create like situations where I've got the unicorns, the dragons, the Arcturians are there, and you can be really creative with it. You can create whatever you want. You can harness that energy. And your body like is incredible. Your subconscious mind is your body. Your body is the archive. Your body doesn't know that that isn't real. That's why you shift. So be as creative as you can. So I've spent a lot of time with my inner child, hearing her, like acknowledging to her, I can see and I can feel you, and I'm here with you, and I understand that no one gets you, and you've got all this magic inside and no one can see it, and there's no way for you to express who you are. And I can see that you felt like the adult and your parents felt like the kids. I get it. And like, let her cry, let her hug, let her feel inspired. So I'm going to just flip over to the other side. I'm going to thank that part of my consciousness for what it's shown me. I'm going to thank my body for these sensations that have enabled this energy to move. And I'm just looking again at the original image that I had of this part of me that doesn't love herself. She's definitely fuzzier. So I'm going to check in on her and the other one at the end of expressing the other part of consciousness, because that's like a subjective form of measurement. And you're not making it up. If you receive these images, if you ask questions, your body, your subconscious mind will show you where this aspect of you is up to. So I can see that that negative side of things, like she's gone a bit fuzzy, like I can't quite see her how I was seeing her before. So that's really good. Your mind sometimes does that to indicate to you that some energy has been moved. So the part of me, so now I'm going to go to the other part of me, the part of me that does love herself. I'm going to go to her as if the other part doesn't exist. So I'm going to go all in. So this is why we sometimes get that pendulum swing from one side to the other side. I hate myself. I love myself. I don't want to smoke. I do want to smoke. You know, I want to move forward. I don't want to move forward. The reason that we flip flop like that pendulum swing is because both aspects are valid. That's why we don't want to make either side the bad guy. We just want to hear them. So the part of me that loves herself, I kind of have realized this part, like maybe for a long time, there's been a part of me that has pretended to love herself, but she didn't actually. She was kind of bypassing. She thought she loved herself, but she didn't really understand what that meant. I think I am understanding what that means a bit more now. And so when I attend to this side of my consciousness, she looks good. She's smiling. She's kind of got this, it's like a full body smile almost. And in my body, that feels like waves again, but kind of more fruitful waves. It's like they're going higher and they're moving more regularly, and there's a spaciousness to it. So focusing on my body while I'm feeling the aspect of me that loves herself, it feels like connection and it feels like peace. And I'm getting sort of fragments of memory of good times, like being on the beach in Belize, being on top of a mountain in the Himalayas, laughing with friends in the pub, out raving in the clubs, dancing to Orbital at Glastonbury. So it's that feeling of everything works when I'm like this. And I respect and love myself. Everything works, as opposed to the other side where nothing works. It's like an effortless flow of synchronicities, a full body smile, like a happy sort of magnetic quality to her. And her happiness is contagious. And it's like a sense of she is the universe. She is in this I am experience. She's infinite, infinite possibility, as opposed to the infinite limitation on the other side. It's very polar. And I can see her dancing at the festivals in the mud with her hair stuck to her face. This feeling of like unstoppable, unbridled joy. And it's full excitement. It's like it feels like never ending, like I'm always gonna feel this good. Like this feeling is now me. This is gonna go on forever. Like I've made it. I've landed, like an invincibility. But it feels like she can do anything. She can do anything if she loves herself enough to commit to it, to commit to herself. And she doesn't need other people to be like that. She's generating it herself, and that's the key. Other people are magnetically drawn to her when she's like that, and that helps. And community and unity is the way. But this has to start with her, and that's what makes it stable. So I'm getting like where there was like a tightness in my throat chakra before, I'm getting yeah, I don't know how to describe that feeling. It's kind of moving upwards like a pulse. It's a pulsing, moving up, like a sense of energy moving through my crown chakra. It's a feeling of there's energy moving outside of my body as well as inside my body. And I'm getting a visual of like an explosion of butterflies and dragonflies. Like I've had, when I've worked on the dark side of this, like I've had an explosion of black butterflies quite often, like a sort of image of Pandora's box opening and then shutting it again. But yeah, I've got red admirals and I've got those beautiful blue monarchs from Central America, like those shiny blue and like bright green and red and orange dragonflies. And there's elementals, there's kind of little beings with wings. And it's like when this part of my consciousness, when she's like this, it's like the trees are bending to get closer to her. Like nature is like vibing with her. She's blending with nature. So as opposed to the contraction on the other side, like this is expansion and flow and possibility. And like this kind of feeling, this compulsion to run into the ocean and like merge with nature and to splash and play. And then I'm getting visuals of camping under the stars, sitting by the fire, connecting with the earth and the sky, being a channel. And like in a really beautiful way, like it's giving me thoughts of childhood, like on the good side of things as well. Like that even though it was a dark childhood, um, I was raised in darkness, but there were glimpses of joy and happiness. Like my dad used to play cricket and I used to love the adventure playground at the local cricket pitch, and we used to literally spend hours catching crickets and grasshoppers and playing on the zip wire and the tire swing and playing with friends that were from a different part of the village. And I'm getting images of me catching bullfish in my hands with my friend Marion in the stream and dressing up clothes with my friend Lizzie. These big, like 70s dresses with ridiculous collars and lace. Yeah, and ballet classes and tap classes and roller skating and cycling out of my mum and dad's line of vision, unsupervised play. We did have enough of that, I think. Not a huge amount, but like we had enough to find ourselves to some degree. And extended family Christmases were sometimes really good because we had some funny cousins and lots of different ages and like lots of different senses of humor. Yeah, millions of cousins. And I'm just seeing myself with my sisters making prank phone calls when my parents were out and doing things like swearing on my cousin's CB radio. So if you can look at what was good in the dark, like that is integration, integrating the good. So yeah, generally this part of me, she's radiating. She's radiating light and she just feels like joy and love. So I'm going to kind of come out of my parts and I'm going to come back to the central character, Jen. And one of the most powerful things you can do when you do parts work is what you basically do at the end of the whole experience. And that is to look at the parts again and to compare how they are appearing to you now as opposed to how they were appearing to you. So, yeah, the part of me that was kind of self-loathing, not loving herself, she has like she's definitely she's gone a bit fuzzy. I can't quite see her clearly, but I think she's standing up now as opposed to sitting down, kind of hugging her knees. She's standing up. She's not smoking anymore. And she's kind of wondering why she was doing that. There's like a sense of what? And she's actually looking at the other part. So what you ultimately want with your parts is you want them to understand each other. You want them to at least be aware of each other. Because sometimes these opposing parts, they are not even aware of each other because the split is so deep and there's so much emotion or belief systems kind of in the way of them connecting. But ultimately, the aim of PartsWork is for their awareness to be on each other at the very least, if you can. If one of your parts has got their arms folded and it's looking the other way and it's like, back off, sister, I don't want you to come near me. Or if there's like judgment or anger between your parts, let it all be there. Let it all be there. Like nothing's gone wrong. That's perfect. Whatever you see is perfect because you can keep coming back to this, keep coming back to this from a different frequency each time. So bearing in mind that I've done a boatload of inner child work over the years, my parts might not look or behave like your parts when you do parts work. So my part that was self-loathing, she's actually reaching out her hand to the other part. So they will spontaneously connect with each other if you're ready to do that. So the parts are aligning themselves. This just goes to prove that your body, your consciousness is a self-healing mechanism. You just have to participate in that and stop distracting yourself away from it, if you see what I mean. So yeah, she so this is giving me like, I don't know if any of you remember that aha video, Take on Me. There was like a black and white cartoony kind of sketchy character, and then it became kind of real life and kind of colored. That's kind of what I'm seeing. So the smoking kind of self-loathing part of me, she was black and white and grey and brown. She's reaching out for the colorful, vivid part of consciousness. So she's kind of going from being stagnant, kind of like a cartoon character, like a ghost, to stepping into reality kind of thing. And she's smiling like that, the dark side of my consciousness, she's actually smiling and she's stepping into the other side. And the self-loving part, she's reaching out to her and they're taking each other's hand. So it's like the joy on that side is turning the black and white multicolored. And they're just hugging, they're hugging. And so, like, a really good thing to do if you get engagement between your parts is to imagine all of the past inner children. So, all of the inner children that got stuck, invite them in, bring these soul fragments back, tell them it's time to come home, tell them it's safe to come and feel all of that shit, all of that horrible stuff. Like, come into my body, come and be with me. So, my dark side of consciousness is spontaneously merging with my light side of consciousness. So this is exactly what you ultimately want to happen. You want them to connect, you want them to merge. If you can get them to shake hands or to hug, that's perfect. I mean, like any amount of your energy and attention going on to these parts of you is already integration happening, however far you get with this. So the whole purpose of this is to bring unity within yourself. Because if you bring unity within yourself, you will bring unity in your external. So what to do with your parts if they don't spontaneously want to connect? And the likelihood is that they won't. They probably won't. So if you're attempting to do inner child work or parts work for the first time, when you're working with your parts, if they don't want to connect with each other, they don't have to. Let them be separate. Say to them, it's okay. I want you to be in control. You're both in charge. You don't have to do anything. that I say. You don't have to do anything that anyone else says, because you're free, and you're free to stay separate. Allow the separation, because you're reducing the force to that separation, if you see what I mean. You're allowing that resistance to be there. So really good questions to ask your parts is, do they understand each other? You know, does this part understand this part? Does this part understand this part? And when you kind of go into that question, you will feel something magic happening, because you have to focus really hard to know the answer. And in that moment, when you ask that question, does my self-hating part understand this self-loving part? And does this self-loving part understand this self-hating part? When you go to that question, you do get a weird discombobulating feeling. It is a connection that you've made, even if there wasn't going to be a spontaneous one. So let it all be there. Don't try and fix or change. If your inner child wants to hide behind the curtain or run away, let them. But if you speak out loud and say, okay, well, I've got some things to say, you don't have to listen. You can listen from over there if you want, or you can just go. But say it anyway, because they will be listening. Their ears will be flapping like the kids sitting on the stairs, trying to listen to the parents' conversations. So, yeah, sit with the sensations. Ask the question, do they understand each other? There might be a question, like a question that often arises in PartsWork is, how are you like that? So if the parts don't understand each other, that's okay. One of them might say to the other, how are you like that? I don't even understand you. Why are you doing that? That question is perfect. Let the other one answer, because there's dialogue. If there's dialogue, there's connection, there's potential for unity. It's a work in progress. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. And that was kind of deeper than I thought it would be. You know, I did have some notes to prompt me, but a lot of that was quite spontaneously coming from my consciousness live on holistic radio. So yeah, thanks everybody for listening. And if you are interested in PartsWork or any form of self-healing or sessions, therapy sessions, then just get in touch with me through my website, JennyLuscombeEFT.co.uk. And does anybody have any questions? I can see that there's a few folks on the radio listening.
Yeah, I think Jackie's just posted a message up, driving.
Oh, right, yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I was fascinated. In fact, I sat back, put my feet up, because all the lights are off. I sat here in the darkness with my eyes closed, listening to what you were saying. Totally amazing. It was just like, wow. And is that what you do, or get your clients to talk about, get them to open up like that?
Yeah, some people are very, very wordy. I mean, I'm very wordy and I will do all the talking. Some people, it's all about the physical sensation in the body and just feeling the feeling. Like, it's so different. Like, one PartsWork session with someone looks completely different to another. And then obviously people are all at different stages of excavating their consciousness, you know. Some people might not get past the first like flood of tears. Do you see what I mean? It's just whatever happens is perfect. And it's just however you engage your subconscious mind, whatever happens is meant to happen.
We've got a Jedi Master in. As opposed to a Jedi Master.
Yeah.
We've got a Jedi Master.
Yeah,
who's listened to most of the show, I think.
Yeah.
As well.
Thank you, Jedi Master.
Any questions or any comments to make, Master Jedi? No.
Yeah.
Okay, then Jackie's gone. as well, so she's
Yeah,
not
that's
really
okay.
sort herself out doing what she needs to do.
Yeah.
But one or two of the folk come and go. But no, absolutely fantastic, Jen.
Yeah, thanks,
So
Andy.
are you going to do this again, but with another individual live on the show?
Yes, I might do, but it's a case of like getting people to volunteer. I've just recently done it with my friend Dan on YouTube, and I've done it with a friend Bob on YouTube. And I've got someone else interested that I might do it with tomorrow. Um, but yeah, like if anybody like because I wanted to demonstrate it myself so people can see what that is, you know. If anybody who's listening would like to come and have a go, and you don't have to give your name, like you don't have to show your face. But if you want to, you know, in your full glory, that's okay too. Then just get in touch with me. And yeah, we'll
I know
set something up.
your contact details are available on the flyers when we post a show up and
Yeah,
pre-show post.
yeah, yeah.
Flyers. All your contact information is there for people.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously, it would be a free therapy session because, you know, I wouldn't charge anybody anything for something that was a service to humanity, you know, on holistic radio, on YouTube or whatever. But I really strongly feel like if every human learnt to do some kind of shadow work like this, we would quantum leap. We would. You know, I really believe in the hundredth monkey effect, and um, just doing that today, I can feel like there's been a difference in my own consciousness, even though, like, you know, it's different doing it with an audience than it is doing it with yourself, just yourself on the sofa kind of thing. But it's so powerful and it's what no one does. No one goes all in to both sides of the coin. And that's why we get stuck having both consciousnesses throwing themselves at us because both consciousnesses want to be heard. So as soon as you've heard them, you don't need the stuckness, and it's kind of obvious. It is like really obvious, and you know things like procrastination and self-sabotage and indecision are like really painful and like go on and on for years. So if you can feel empowered to do that yourself, you know that is amazing and it's free. You know, you can keep going back to it, keep going back to it. And healing yourself is like one of the best things in the world. It really is. Because you know, moving into a feeling of empowerment is in itself like pulling the plug out of the lack of control that you felt on the other side. So yeah, it's all good. So if anybody wants to have a go, come on down.
Definitely. Would it normally take or last an hour, or does it sometimes? Is it less than an hour?
Yeah,
over an hour.
It can vary a lot actually, and it depends on what level of self-expression you're at. Like a lot of people have numbness when they first start to work on themselves, and but the numbness is part of it. Like the numbness is in itself an emotion that you have to sit with and explore. So yeah, if you're numb, you're going to get less response from your body and from your mind and thoughts and memories. And some people feel like they can't connect to their childhood. But there's no person on this planet that is unworkable. Like, you know, I work for a veteran charity and those guys that they send me are the most programmed people on the planet. And I can get them feeling for the first time sometimes. And it's just knowing how to do it. You know, sometimes I get clients through who will say to me that they've seen other therapists, different modalities, and the therapists have said to them, I'm sorry, I can't help you because your problems are too big and you're too far gone. Which I think is like the worst, most abusive thing that any person could say to anyone. There is no one. There is
the question I was just about to ask you.
Yeah.
In a sense of, how would somebody know that they would require what it is that you offer to be able to ask you?
I think if they have got significant traumatic memories where they don't feel safe to explore it, but they need someone to do that with, to facilitate it, that can be a profound experience to feel contained by another person who knows what they're doing, you know. to enable that person to dip their toe into something that they've freaked out about and not been able to fully go into. Because, like the level of trauma that I've sometimes worked with, like people have had PTSD flashbacks for like 30 years and they've not had a good night's sleep in 30 years. And then they do a bit of parts work with me and it's gone. And like it's just absolutely magical. Like you cannot make it up. And you know, a lot of psychological modalities out there and mainstream therapy is often encouraging people to distract themselves from their emotion or giving them the pharmaceutical drugs that will do that, or encouraging changes of behavior that will keep their problem there instead of enabling them to look. And some therapists will say, oh no, you can't work on yourself and do that by yourself because it's not safe. It just is. It just is. If the universe has given you trauma, then that's for you to work out yourself. That's for you. There's nothing that you can't handle. It's just about knowing how to do it. And yeah, so some people might have sessions with me just to understand the process so that they can then work on themselves going forward. But some people need the stability.
Part of your client list, do you deal with people that have self-medicated with A, B, C class drugs, that are suffering trauma and use illegal substances to avoid dealing with past emotions, past trauma? Or are your clients more towards the sort of non-drug, self-administered drug?
Yeah, like
type of thing.
It's all kinds. I mean, I because my speciality is working with trauma in an alternative way. Like I've done sessions with all kinds of people, and the drugs thing, like it's drug use, I think, is all about intention. It's about your intention. If you're using drugs to escape, then it's not going to go well. But if you're using drugs to enable yourself in some way, like to expand your consciousness or to help yourself feel something.
I literally meant for people who have suffered the trauma in their life, whatever that might be, but then self-medicate illegal substances, whether that be heroin or cocaine or crack cocaine or spice or whatever the latest fad drug is, that you don't get prescribed by the medical profession.
Yeah.
People that are hiding or trying to forget the trauma they've experienced. Have you dealt with people like that? Is that something that you've dealt with and had success with?
Yeah, sometimes, because the charity that I work for, like they specialize in PTSD and addiction. So the clients that they get referred to them often have kind of complex things like pain as well as addiction. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, all kinds. Like there's all kinds. I've done sessions for drug dealers. There's all kinds. Like, there's loads of different ways that people are managing their pain or their emotion, and I think they're all valid. And yeah, so I have worked with people like that, but not that often. But yeah, for sure.
I'm just trying to imagine putting myself in a position where I would seek out the kind of things that you offer and describe. So that's all I was trying to do. I was just trying to play around with that in my mind.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for that.
Yeah.
We've gone well over the hour, so when I say well over, it's only 6:10. But if you're happy to wrap it up, we can wrap it up there.
Yeah. Okay, Andy.
Okay, I'll just bring up the stop recording. A few final words of 1st of December wisdom.
Yeah, I think, it's the 1st of December. So yeah, I think give yourself a Christmas present. Give yourself the Christmas present of learning how to excavate your consciousness. You will not regret it. And sometimes it actually becomes quite addictive when you realize how much power you've got. So yeah, if you need any help or advice, just get in touch with me, and good luck with your self-healing.
Stopped it. Yeah, beautiful, fantastic.
Thanks everybody for listening and watching. I hope that you learnt something that you liked there and that you try PartsWork yourself. If you would like any further information on self-healing processes, or you would like to come and have a go with me, then all my information is on JennyLuscombeEFT.co.uk. So you can contact me on there. All the information is below. And it would be brilliant if you could join my YouTube channel so I can reach more people. And if you like what you've seen and heard here today, if you could share it with someone that you think it could help, that would be amazing. So thank you very much for liking, subscribing, and sharing. Have a brilliant day. Take care. Bye.